Title of my sermon this morning is The Interior Castle, and comes from the verse in the Gospel of John that reads, "In my Father's house there are many dwelling places." She was in her late 60s and traveling with 3 other nuns. It was late in the year 1579, and the group left Medina del Campo, crossing the Castilian plain. The weather soured and a winter storm ensued, so the party took shelter in an inn where the woman met up with an old friend, the priest Fray Diego. They stayed for several days. Fray Diego celebrated Mass for the nuns, and the old friends caught up on life. She told him of a vision she had had, but also her resistance to writing about it. The 16th century Spanish mystic Teresa of Avila lamented, "Why do they want me to write things? Let the learned men who have studied do the writing. I am a stupid creature and do not know what I am saying. There are more than enough books written on prayer already. For the love of God, let me get on with my spinning and go to choir and do my religious duties like the other sisters. I am not meant for writing. I have neither the health nor the wits for it." Teresa of Avila had reasons to resist. She had led a monastic renewal in her region of Spain, reinvigorating the Carmelite order and then leading the Discalced order when the two split. The Spanish Inquisition was looking into her earlier writings. Being of Jewish descent and from a family that had recently converted to Christianity, the Inquisition watched her closely. She had also suffered from ill health for most of her life. And now, toward her end, her spiritual counselors were asking her to write yet another book. She didn't see the point. The disciples were confused too. When Jesus and the disciples gathered for the dinner of the Last Supper, it was supposed to be a joyous occasion. They were in Jerusalem, and people had celebrated Jesus' presence by placing palm branches and cloaks before him as he rode on a donkey. He had asked them to prepare the Passover meal, and they enjoyed the feast, remembering God's saving acts that freed the Israelites from Egypt. But Jesus' mood had suddenly changed. He got down on his knees and began to wash their feet. It was awkward, and Peter said so. For some reason, Jesus' mood then darkened. He talked about one of them betraying him. Judas then spoke with Jesus privately before leaving. The other disciples thought their conversation was about money as usual. Jesus then talked about a new commandment, that they should love each other, as if they didn't know that already. Jesus finally said that Peter would deny Jesus 3 times that very night. The whole dinner went from a celebration to sitting Shiva, as if somebody had already died. The disciples didn't understand why. Like the disciples, we are living in a time of a distinct mood shift. We went from freedom and economic prosperity to being shut in and shut down in a day. The change has left many of us reeling and filled with anxiety. Calls to mental health hotlines have dramatically increased in recent weeks. A Texas helpline reported a 300% increase. A national helpline reported a nearly 900% increase. And an emotional support line established in the wake of COVID-19 in New York City received over 8,000 calls in 5 days. Our mental health has impacted us in other ways too. How many of us are sleeping more? And are we more distracted? Our thinking has become limited, and our productivity comes in waves, ebbs and flows. Maybe you're spending hours doing crossword or jigsaw puzzles. The low-level angst and uncertainty about our future sap our abilities to concentrate on meaningful work. When our future is so uncertain, it is hard to plan and follow through on things. Seriously, when the most stressful part of our day or week is shopping for groceries, we have hit a whole new level of angst. Jesus sensed the disciples' confusion. Our reading this morning followed Jesus' foretelling of Peter's denial and his other foreboding acts and words. So Jesus spoke words of comfort. He said, "In my Father's house there are many dwelling places." Jesus was leaving. The crucifixion was approaching quickly. His death was less than a day away. Jesus recognized that the disciples were worried about what he had said. He didn't want their worry to paralyze them. While he was aware of his transition from this world to the next, from Jesus of Nazareth to Jesus Christ, he was concerned about his friends, followers, and disciples. In speaking words of comfort, that he was going to prepare a place for them, Jesus did not want them to lose sight of their growing mission and ministry. Granted, the disciples didn't get what Jesus was saying. Thomas asked Jesus about where he was going, and Philip wanted Jesus to show them the way. Jesus had to admonish them. "Have I been with you all this time, Philip, and you still do not know me?" Jesus reminded them to believe in him and God. Once he turned them back toward belief, Jesus could tell them what to do next. He reminded them of the work they would have to do. He said, "The one who believes in me will also do the works that I do." That new focus allowed them to move beyond anxiety and fear. Their mission would get them through the travails of grief they would face. In these extraordinary, confusing days of ours, we can find solace in the grandness of our Father in heaven's dwelling place for us. But there is more. We don't have to wait to find a room with God. Teresa of Avila did write, finally, the book her advisors wanted her to write. The interior castle is based on the verse from John's Gospel that reads, "In my Father's house there are many dwelling places." After beseeching God, she received a vision one day. Teresa writes, "I began to think of the soul as if it were a castle made of a single diamond or very clear crystals, in which there are many rooms. Just as in heaven there are many mansions." She continues, "The soul of the righteous person is nothing but a paradise in which, as God tells us, he takes his delight." I can find nothing with which to compare the great beauty of a soul and its great capacity. In describing the soul, Teresa notes that many people struggle to connect with it. All our interest is centered on the rough setting of the diamond and in the outer walls of the castle. That is to say, in these bodies of ours. Our bodies are a focal point. That is natural. Teresa is right, however. We spend too much time concerned about our bodies and the physical world around us. We would do well to follow Teresa's advice to seek the inner rooms of our castles. The innermost rooms are where we can interact with God. The rooms are ready now. We don't have to wait until we die to experience the interplay of our souls with the divine. Jesus has gone to prepare our rooms. They are ready. We only have to enter inside ourselves to find them. The interior journey that Teresa describes is something we can attempt to do each day. We don't have to wait. But we also don't have to worry about getting the journey right either. We make our way through prayer, but we don't have to get our prayers right. Instead, we can choose to open ourselves any day or every day. As we do, we will discover all the benefits that Teresa describes in her writings. They are glorious and worth the effort. As Teresa writes, our castles are beautiful and delightful. We can explore them by entering our interior castle through prayer and meditation. By going within, we can let go of the anxiety and fear of these extraordinary days and replace them with joy, peace, and hope.